Welcome to Stories with Mrs. Z. I have some neat stories to tell you. These are a little different than usual. These are by Mercer Mayer, and they're a little critter book. And you'll see that this is a little critter. We're not quite sure of who he is, but he takes on the same attributes and the same trials and tribulations of kids who have brothers or sisters, or sometimes they can't keep their room quite clean, and maybe the mother gets upset. So this is how this person, this little critter, deals with such a thing. And this one is called Just a Mess. And when you see the pictures, you'll understand where his room is just a mess. He said today, well, today I couldn't find my baseball mitt. Have you ever misplaced something and you just can't find it? And you look everywhere and you're not sure where it's supposed to be. And it's not where it's supposed to be because you have left it someplace else. It happens to me too. I looked in my tree house. I love his little tree house. I wish I had had one similar to that when I was growing up. I even looked under the back steps. And the only thing he could find there was his dog, who was trying to probably stay away from him. I asked my mom if she had seen it. She said I should try in my room. So she was very busy. She was potting some plants, so she didn't want to take the time to have to go and help her child who was misplacing something that he should have put back in the spot that he was with, that he'd supposed to put it in. I never thought to look there. What a mess. Look at this. I am hoping that your room doesn't look like this. This is an over-exaggeration, but I think everything should be in its place. So if you have a nice room, or even if you share a room with a brother or a sister, keep your room kind of neat and clean so that you know at least where your things are, not like this particular room. Mom said it was time to clean my room, so I asked her to help. She said, you made the mess, so you can clean it up. Wow, my room, keep out. I have to clean it up. This is ridiculous. Dad was working in the yard. He said he was too busy to help me. My little sister said, no way, and the baby didn't understand. So I just did it myself. Now look at, he looks a little grumpy that he has to do it himself. But who made the mess? Now, this is what happens in my house. If you make the mess, you should clean it up. There should be no slavery. No person should be doing something and cleaning up that somebody else has made a mess of. At least that's what we said in our house. First, I put a few things in the closet. Well, look at how we put the few things in the closet. That's not a very good way to put things in the closet. Just stuff them all in. Because if he needed to find something, he still couldn't find it, even though his room was kind of getting clean. I put my clothes in the drawer. Look at him. He's stuffing the clothes in the drawer. You should fold them so that you don't look like they're all wrinkled and you slept in them all night. And then you'd have to iron them or have somebody iron them, especially if you were little. You couldn't use the iron just yet. I straightened up my games. Look at how he did it. He took a shovel. Oh my goodness. So I shut the lid to my toy box, but he had to jump on top of it because it was so stuffed with toys. And put away my books. I'm not quite sure he was going to put his books away in a nice, organized way. If he was just going to stuff his books someplace, again, he still wouldn't find it. He wasn't very organized. The rest of the mess could fit under my bed, so I put it there. So look at this mess that he still has, even though he's trying to clean his room. Then I made the bed. Mom won't Mom be pleased? So he's trying to put this bed together, but look at the bed is all crooked because there's so much stuff underneath it. I thought I might wash the floor. So look at what he did. He brought in the hose through the window. And luckily, his mother was right there to say, oh, no. So I just vacuumed instead. And he got his teddy bear cut in the vacuum cleaner. Oh, what a mess was going on. But he was trying. His heart was in the right spot, but just not doing it correctly. Everything was, well, if you want to call it this, everything in his mind was just about perfect. But if you notice, things are almost falling out of his closet. Everything is stuffed everywhere, hidden unbelievably. But then I noticed that my pillow was missing. So he thought about it. Oh, well, where should that be? So what he did, I looked on the other side of my bed. And guess what I found? You ready for this one? My baseball mitt. Well, that has a happy ending, kind of. But if I was this person's mom, I wouldn't be happy with his cleaning skills. Would you? I hope you're saying no. Please try to pick up after yourself. I know your mom or dad might say that. And it's a good practice to get into, is if you undress to get into your pajamas, either put your clothes away in the hamper if they're dirty, or fold them on a chair if you're going to wear your same jeans the next day or something. But don't leave them everywhere. It's such a mess. And I know that if you're in a hurry and you don't know where something is, you're going to get even more frustrated. So if you take the time when you're finished, then that would be a really, really good habit to get into. And that's all it is. It's a habit. I know that I can go into some of my friends' houses and everything is perfect. You go into my house, not so perfect, but it's cleaned up. And I wish that I was more like the others so that everything was neat and clean and everything. But I try my hardest to keep it clean. But there's always something that has to be put away. But this is the trials and tribulations of growing up. So if your room is a mess, try to be more careful about putting things away after you use them. Now, the next story, again by Mercer Mayer, is called I Just Forgot. I know as a little kid, you're learning so many neat things. Your mind is just all filled with all kinds of things that you have to remember or learn how to do. And if your mind is on overload, sometimes you just forget. So this story is talking about just forgetting. And he starts, and this story is dedicated by Mercer Mayer by Benjamin. Sometimes I remember, and sometimes I just forget. Who knew? This morning, I remembered to brush my teeth, but I forgot to make my bed. He could have gotten distracted. And it looks like his room, again, is quite messy. And the mother doesn't seem very happy about that either. And he's looking up, oh, who knew? But you should be able to clean up your room. It's your room. You should take care of your room, not make your mother do it. I put my dishes in the sink after breakfast, but I forgot to put the milk away. Now the milk gets expensive, and if it's milk that stays out for very long, unfortunately it goes bad, and then your mom or dad has to go to the grocery store and get more milk, and that's costing them more money. So that wasn't a very good thing either. I almost forgot to feed the puppy, but he reminded me. Look at what he's doing. He's holding his dish, and he's not very happy that he's hungry. I didn't forget to water the plants. They looked fine to me. Well, they could have been a little bit more perkier. And I didn't forget to feed the goldfish. He just didn't look hungry. I'll do it now, Mom. So he's giving the goldfish some food. I got ready for school. I even got to the school bus on time. That's a necessity. You have to get to the school bus on time. You have to be organized so that you won't miss your bus if you have to take a bus. But I forgot my lunchbox. Well, there you go. The poor mother's running after the school bus. Mom brought it to the school for me, though. Thanks, Mom. Now look at that. She's a good mother that she can be able to do that and go out of her way to help you. But if you were more thoughtful and more in control and took more advantage of thinking through things so that you would do it on your own, that would have been much better for you and for the mom. After school, I went outside to play in the rain. I remembered to put on my rain slicker, but I forgot my rubber boots. So now his feet are wet. His shoes are soiled. The shoes are if they're sneakers or if they're leather shoes, they have to dry someplace, and then they don't quite feel as good the next day. When I came inside for a snack, I didn't forget to take my boots off. I left them on because I was going to go right back outside. But look what happened. He didn't take his boots off like he should have, and now made a mess on the floor for his mother. Again, not thinking. Shame on him. But again, you have to understand there's a lot of growing and thinking and learning going on. Sometimes kids can't process all of that all together and be a perfect kid. Sometimes you kind of miss up on some things and you just forget. I had cookies and milk. I was just going to eat 3 cookies, but I forgot to count them. I didn't forget to shut the refrigerator door, though. I just wasn't finished eating yet. But the mother was a little upset that the door was still open while he was eating his cookies. So again, he forgot. When Dad came home from work, I was supposed to get his paper. I didn't forget, though. The puppy got it first. Well, where was it? It was on the floor. What could the puppy get? The paper. So the father wasn't very happy that the paper was in shreds. I know it's time for bed. I didn't forget. Of course I'll remember to pick up my toys when I'm finished playing with them. I took my bath and remembered to wash behind my ears. I didn't use soap, but I didn't forget to. I just don't like soap. I guess I did forget to pick up my toys. Oops, next page, come on. Did I forget to turn off the tub too? Uh-oh. But there is one thing I never forget. I always remember to have Mom read me a bedtime story, and I always remember to kiss her good night. Well, those are good things that you ask your mom to read you a story. It's a nice bonding time with your mom or sometimes with your dad. Sometimes if it's a bigger brother or sister that might like to read stories to you, that's always a nice family tradition to do. And it's always good to kiss your parents good night. If they're home, some parents have to work at night. So maybe you can just in your heart, if you're going to bed, say, good night, Mom, good night, Dad. And sometimes, who knows, they might catch it. But you have to remember not to forget, because when you forget these things, your mind is all jumbled, then other people have to pick up after you or get upset with you, and you don't want that to happen. So just try to keep your mind together and pick up after yourself, keep your room clean, do your homework. There's so many times that the kids, oh, I forgot my homework at home. Well, if you get organized and you get into a routine, that means to do things time after time the same way, you'll remember a lot better. And if you keep things in your spot where they're supposed to be, you won't waste time looking for them. Just remember that from a method from Mrs. E. The next story that I have is Just My Friend and Me, again by Mercer Mayer. And he is a neat little friend for this little critter. And it starts off with, I asked Mom if I could have a friend over, because I just don't want to play alone. His little sister must have been off someplace, and he probably didn't want to play with her anyway. Isn't it fun to have a friend come over? I can remember Pammy would come, it was in the 4th grade, and I would have to leave for school early, and then Pammy would call my house and ask if I could come over to her house and play. And my mom said, yep. So we would walk to Pammy's house, and she would say to me, Jeannie, she said, I called your mom, and your mom said it's okay if you come over and play with me. So I would go over, and the neatest thing was, I was a kind of a chubby girl, and my mother would never have milk and cookies after school for me, but Pammy's mother always did. So we would have milk and cookies after school. I can still remember that. And then we'd play and have fun, and then until I had to go home. So what a nice feeling. There are so many things that we can do, just my friend and me. So he's calling up his friend, and he's waiting for the friend to come. And here comes the friend. First, we climb the apple tree. I used to climb apple trees, too. I was a tomboy. I could get up on the highest limbs of the tree, and the other girls couldn't. And some of the other boys couldn't either. And I could get the best apples, and I'd stuff them. I'd tuck my shirt in, and I'd stuck them in my shirt, and then I'd bring them down and share them with my friends. Sometimes I'd drop the apples down if it was a clear shot. Sometimes the apples would bounce off the tree, and then that wouldn't be so good. I could climb higher if I really wanted. Then we play in my treehouse. My friend says only babies use a ladder. Next, we play hide and seek. I hide so well that my friend won't ever find me. Look at, he's hiding under the bushes. And the friend looks a little perplexed. He doesn't know. We like to play with my racing cars. They don't work very well in the water, though. Oh, and he went right into the water with his racing car. We like to play basketball, too. I could get the ball if I really tried. Next, we play with my new baseball and my Louisville Slugger bat. My friend likes to hit the ball, but he doesn't like to chase it. Oh, well, some friends you have to get along with them, even and go along with what they like and don't like, so that you can be friends with them. We all have our quirks, you know. Then we have a jump rope contest. My friend jumps 100 times. I could do that, but sometimes I like to let my friend win. Isn't that kind of him? We swing on my swing set, too. Next time, we'll swing on separate swings. I guess the swing just didn't like having 2 people on it. We take turns playing daredevil on my new bike. My friend tries to stand on the seat. Well, that's not a very good idea, is it? Look at, he's going to go over this ramp that they made, and the friend kind of looks a little harried because he's going to fall off that bike. It only bent a little. I bet Dad can fix it when he gets home. So the bike looks a little tired there. My mom takes care of our cuts and bruises, and my friend cries a lot. I only cry a little. So he has to put Band-Aids everywhere because he had a terrible accident. But same thing happened to me, too. I fell over at my friend's house and had to have stitches. That wasn't very much fun. After we finish playing, we pick up my toys and put them away. Isn't that a good idea? My friend says he'll put away the comic books. So look what he's doing. He's not putting the comic books away. He starts reading them. And look at what the other little critter's doing. He has to put away his own toys. When my friend's mom comes to pick him up, we say goodbye. We always have fun when it's just my friend and me. Yeah. But sometimes it's great just to be all alone. It is fun to be all alone because you can do what you want when you want to, as long as it's okay with your mom or your dad. And sometimes, as you notice, the friend doesn't necessarily like doing what you're doing, or sometimes he breaks some of your toys or she breaks some of your toys, and that's not a good thing, and you have to be very kind. So one time, I can remember one of my friends took one of my shovels home, and I was very angry with that. And I said, I'm going to go get my shovel. And so I marched across the street. I had to look both ways. I marched across the street because my mother was there, and I looked both ways, and she was there to watch me look both ways. And I couldn't go across the street until somebody was there to watch me. So I went over and I said, I want my shovel back. And he gave it to me, bonk, right over the head. So I had this big cut over my eye, and I started crying, and I took my shovel, and I was going home, and I had to stand on the side of the road and yell, Mommy, Mommy, and the blood's coming down my face because I couldn't cross the street without an adult, even though I made sure that I was looking both ways. And she came flying out. She was not happy with our neighbor. So, yeah, so I had a big Band-Aid that she put on once she stopped the bleeding. So my friend, I can remember, my mother called across the street and said, your son just knocked my daughter over the head with her shovel, and now she was bleeding. So he got sent to his room for the rest of the day. I was glad. So that's the story on Just My Friend and Me. And they look like they're pals, but sometimes having a friend over is kind of trying. Be the best you can, because sometimes you have faults too, so you have to kind of give and take with one another. And the last one is, because Christmas is coming soon, this is called Merry Christmas, Mom and Dad. And again, it's a little critter, and it's again by Mercer Mayer, and he's trying to get ready for Christmas in his own way. Well, wait till you see this. I wanted to make Christmas very special, just for you, so I made a Christmas wreath. There it is. Can you see it? Isn't that cute? And he's very proud of it, and he's banged a nail into the wall, and the mother and the father, they're not very excited about it. But again, he was very creative, and his heart was there, wasn't he? I wanted to decorate some Christmas cookies just for you, but I couldn't stop tasting them. So he's eating away, his mother's trying to do some, and he's not doing very well. I wanted to find a Christmas present just for you, but there were too many toys to look at. So his father's kind of watching him look at the toys instead of buying Christmas presents. So I asked Santa to bring you a special present instead. So there he is asking Santa, could you please get something good for my parents? I wanted to wrap the baby's present just for you, but the tape was too sticky. So look at what happened. He had good intentions, but the tape and the ribbon and the paper got all messed up, so that there was a lot of cleanup to do after this. But again, you're only little. You have great intentions. I picked out a Christmas tree just for you, but it was too big to take home. Look at the big one that he wants to take home. And there's plenty of other ones that are good size. I wanted to carry the Christmas balls just for you, but the box was upside down. What do you think of that? That's a little careless, isn't it? See what happens when you don't pay attention, and then you get into more trouble, and you wonder why your parents are upset with you. You have to think things through before you start jumping into something and just grabbing things without thinking. So I got out the Christmas lights, but they were all tangled. I wanted to put the star on top of the tree all by myself, so Dad helped. On Christmas Eve, I tried to go right to sleep just for you, but I was too excited. So there he has his little list posted to the end of his bed. It says, "Dear Santa, I am very good. Please give me extra things I want. I love you, me." And then comes Santa. Here he comes. And finally, he's sound asleep. I didn't want to make you get up too early on Christmas morning, so he came down before anybody was awake. So I brought my toys upstairs to show you. And he's making all of this noise, and the poor mother and father, it's 6 o'clock. It's not time to get up yet. Merry Christmas, Mom and Dad. And I'm sure that even though he did a lot of these things that boys and girls are supposed to do, like write his letter to Santa, and to try to help and put things together to help the family, there are certain traditions I'm sure that all your family has. And that even though they're trying sometimes for you and for your parents, they think back and they remember it with fondness. Remember when you did that? I can remember my dad and I, we used to have to make the Christmas turkey. And the neatest thing was that he would say, "Is it time to make the turkey stuffing, Jeannie?" I'd say, "Oh, good," because I gotta tell you this, it was awesome. We'd have to do the cranking of the crackers first. It would crank and we'd crank and we'd crank, and we'd put it in this big dark blue pan. And I'd say, "Is that enough, Dad?" "Nope, we need more." Crank and crank and crank. "How about now?" "Nope, some more." Crank and crank. But the good part was we had to make it with, he'd put the butter in it. Now, be careful, that's hot, you have to wait. So he'd take it with a spoon, but he'd roll up my sleeves for me and wash my hand. We'd wash my hands, and my hands were nice and clean, and I'd hold out my hand, and he'd crack the eggs, raw eggs into my hands so I could squish them. It was so much fun, and then I was able to take and put the milk in and everything and mix it with my hands. We did that every year for years. Even when I was older, I still liked squishing the eggs with my hands. So those were fond memories that we would talk about. I hope that you have fond memories too that you make for your Christmas times. And you'll be able to tell those stories to your children when you grow up. And make sure, while we're on this subject, you better be good boys and girls, because Santa is always around and listening, even though he lives at the North Pole. So that's it from here. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you next time with Stories with Mrs. E. Again, thanks for coming. Loved having you. Bye.